two-wheel drive trucks of the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League are wrapping up the second day of competition here in Hillsboro, Wisconsin, and they find themselves in the midst of an intense points battle. After taking the win last night, Bethany Nelson sits just 2 points behind defending champ Tim Messer. And with only 4 rounds of competition left on the season, there are crucial points up for grabs today. It's not just points, but also the prestigious belt buckle honoring former PPL champ John Muma that's in play, which the Nelson family is sure to make a run at. It's the last day in Hillsboro, and all the action starts now. We're in Hillsboro, Wisconsin. It's time for some truck and tractor pulling here with the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League and the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull presented by General Tire. Ken Stout and Leslie Mears here to call the action for you, and thousands of our friends have all come out to watch the best go at it.
Yeah, this is one of the most amazing facilities that you'll find here on the circuit. 2 days of pulling, 11 classes, pretty much anything that you want to see in the world of truck and tractor pulling you can find here at Hillsboro, Wisconsin, along with amazing campgrounds, beautiful grandstands, and just the quaintest little town you can find.
Super modified two-wheel drive trucks is what we're going to focus on here today, and the points battle here is tight. Let's talk about these trucks.
Yeah, very cool. 6,200 pounds, pretty much everything custom made for pulling here. You've got that amazing 575 cubic inch supercharged engine making over 3,000 horsepower. And so pouring a lot of power into the ground here. And that's the trick, is how they can get it into those rear tires and hook it up to the track.
To kick off the category will be the Dodge-bodied corn burner, driven by Jason Sullivan, not chasing points here on the Champions Tour. A seasoned driver, very patient out of the hole. Finally picks up the front end, charges down through there. 3:13 and 18 looked like a really nice hook.
Yeah, a really great effort for him from the state of Iowa here. And, it's a little different for these guys. They pulled just one night ago here on a Hillsboro track that was a little bit more moist than we normally see it up here, and so it's had a chance to dry out overnight. They worked it up here this afternoon, and so afternoon pulling is always a little bit different. Usually it's a little drier, but in this case, I think it's going to make the track conditions just right for our guys here today.
Here's a look at the pulling order as Chad Mayhill will come up here next. Ones we want to keep an eye on will be Tim Messer, Bethany Nelson, and Brant Sullivan, all in the hunt in the points. Really, the points scheduled down through the top 4 or 5 were really tight, so there's still a lot of time, too. There's still 4 more hooks, including this one here at Hillsboro, to decide this championship. Up next, Chad Mayhill driving the 2-timing inside of the top 10 here. And you could hear a few hops, never got the front end up, never got the RPMs up, just missed it, or had some issues, whatever the case may be. 268 and 94 is well short of what he'll need to compete out here today.
Yeah, and really unfortunate for the team. He had a bright spot earlier in the season there at Lions. And then last year, made a hard charge for it. Saw a little bit of smoke there early on. But I don't know that he really ever, I think you're right, Ken, I don't know that he ever really gets up to full song there and full throttle, just knowing that the truck not hooking up the way he wants it to, and just being very cautious not to have any kind of mechanical damage by going full throttle.
Here's a look at the points that we were talking about coming in here, separated by just 2 at the top, and then Brant Sullivan 22 back, but then look how close Jared Nelson is at 28 back, Dale Nelson 51 back. So really the top 4 to 5 all right there in the hunt, with plenty of pulling yet to go here this season.
Yeah, and with those 4 points and 16 competitors consecutively chasing points, you can make up points very, very quickly. So really at this point, anybody in the top 10 has a shot.
One of the old school tee buckets that we used to see on the tour all the time and very rarely see anymore. Travis Hosley, give her the beans. And give her the beans he does. 312 and 60 is good enough for second place here.
Yeah, showing that first hook. Can be backed up out there on the track, even though it was mechanical there for Chad Mayhill in the two-timing machine. You know, these T-buckets are very, very unique. You really get to see everything that's going on these. And they've got a little bit more movable weight than our full-bodied vehicles, of course, because they don't have that extra weight to carry. So weight placement for these guys a little bit more difficult because they've got more weight that they can move around.
So off and running with our first 3 hooks in the books. Misty Nelson coming up here next. The Midnight Chaos truck comes in here 6th in the points, is yet to get up onto the podium. Nearly got there at Evansville, missed it by just 1 spot, and also at the season opener. Great looking truck. And Misty's going to get after it here and take over the lead. Excellent job there by some 5 feet, 318 and 63.
Yeah, and that's how you come back after a lackluster effort. You know, one day ago here, way outside of the top 10 with an early hook and just not a great pull. And so recollected herself, came up with a new game plan. And remember, she's the first, you know, of the Nelson crew to come out here and to have an awesome hook like that, even though a little unloading and loading a wobble at the end there of the run. To have a great hook like this early on for the team is really great, especially when you've got some contenders there trying to chase those points.
There's a look at your top 3. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back here to Hillsboro.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. K&N. Superior airflow, superior performance. And by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world.
We're back at Hillsboro Fireman's Park for the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull presented by General Tire. We're covering the super modified 2-wheel drive trucks. And everybody loves coming up here to Hillsboro. It's a great pull on the Champions Tour. 2 days, 11 classes. The fans are packed here. They're very knowledgeable as well. But part of the allure is the very prestigious belt buckle that you can win if you have 2 great days up here at Hillsboro.
And of course, Don Slama came up with the idea to award a belt buckle to the puller that has the best overall effort on the weekend when he was at PBR one time in Las Vegas. And the belt buckle this weekend, very, very special for this 2-wheel drive category, especially since it bears the name of John Muma. And so each belt buckle has the name of someone who has passed away due to illness or disease and is special to the pulling community. So I know everybody wants to take that one home.
Yeah, we lost John Muma way too earlier this season. So certainly our hearts, thoughts, and prayers out with that family. We miss him out here on the Champions Tour.
And somebody who's got a shot at that is Bethany Nelson, who we saw her run. She took first one day ago. That was just Tim Deppie in old school, who finished second as well.
Yeah, and then the Showtime, driven by Wayne Timmerman, finished up on the podium in 3rd place. He'll have a solid crack at that prestigious belt buckle as well, so we'll keep an eye on that along the way. Here's a look at the distances from one day ago. To kick open this show with this category, as you can see, some really big numbers up there on the board, but the category very tight as always. And here comes Tim Messer, current points leader by 2. 3 podiums so far this season. We had a chance to spend some time with him before we got going here today to ask him why he designed the thin blue line the way he did.
Well, I wanted to do something for my brother, who's a police officer, and he was involved with our team, and he has recently become more of one of the full-time drivers. So I wanted to do that, and I also wanted to kind of cross that with just a vehicle that would wow a child, to really catch their attention, make them want to come back every year, see that, and remember it for their lifetime. The way that some of the vehicles did myself that really drew me into the sport and became such a fan, and here I am today. And so I just hope to do that for someone else and make a difference.
Yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous truck that will certainly grab your attention. Two big hooks on the Champions Tour is Henry and Goshen. He was up on the podium for both of them, including the win at Goshen. On top of the points by 2 over Bethany Nelson. He's a tough player. And he is going to sneak by Misty Nelson to take over the lead here at 3:19 and 56 by just about 1 foot.
And it's no surprise to see him come out here and do this. You know, he just hasn't made very many mistakes this year. And so the one that you could maybe say was a mistake was a 9th place finish at Lions at the Wagler Performance Pull there. But that's not really very much of a mistake. I mean, that's still a top 10 finish for the team. Everything else in the top 5. You mentioned his podiums earlier. I think really last year, you know, getting that championship under his belt just gave him a different level of confidence, you know, for the whole team, that is. And he's really shown that this year with his performance so far.
This is Jeremy Nelson, the truck called After Midnight, and we spoke about John Muma and his name being on the belt buckle here this year. Unfortunately, we lost John, but this is the truck that John campaigned. And a great effort out of him as well. 3:16 and 64 will be good enough to fall into 3rd place.
Yeah, really great distance for him. Just a little bit of cross-tracking there at the end as he lets it pull to that left-hand side. And, of course, we talk about it often up here at Hillsboro that you've got to be aware of that here, is that there is a lot of good traction on the left side. So a lot of the guys you'll see, just like Jeremy Nelson, starting either center or far right to avoid having to hit those brakes with the possibility of going out of bounds. And so taking those precautions to make sure they can get the most out of their runs.
Coming up here next will be Bobby Barbie. And courtesy of General Tire, we're going to take you back just one night ago and show you a really solid hook here where she was able to put 328 and 83 up on the board and end up inside of the top 5.
And it's really been cool to see her come along in this category. You know, her husband Bob competed in the light superstock category for a long time. Of course, they are full pull motorsports out here building chassis in this 2-wheel drive class. So when they acquired the Willie Make It, it was really cool to see Bobby get in the seat. Bob drove it a couple times, but then for her to take over and then really come along and gain a lot of confidence in the truck.
Got the chain tied here. Time for her to go to work.
Yeah, and they're going to test the waters over there on that far left side of the track where no one's been so far.
And never really got the front end up in the air the way she'd like it. 311 and 89.
Yeah, and these pullers have a lot of weight that they can move around the truck. And so I mentioned one day ago a lot of moisture in the track. And so they're seeing today that it's a little bit better. Of course, look how much dirt she's moving towards that buckboard of the sled. And so maybe overcompensated for that and moved too much weight forward. And by too much weight, it could be simple as 50 to 100 pounds too much. I mean, that's how finicky these vehicles are and how you really have to be on your game to get it right every single time.
Tim Messer up top, the thin blue line, won here 1 year ago. We'll find out if anybody can get around him here or will he sweep it back-to-back years. Welcome back to the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull presented by General Tire. We're off and running here with our super modified two-wheel drive trucks. Current leader is Tim Messer with the thin blue line at 3:19 and 56. He won it in 2018. Keep in mind this is a two-day hook. The other winner was Jeremy Nelson in the Midnight Gambler. He's had some great success here as well, along with that Nelson camp, of course. They've been up on the podium here a lot. General Tire is going to take us back 1 year ago.
Here you can see we're on the opposite track than we are here this afternoon. But, Jeremy just does a really good job of tuning, paying attention, setting up the truck the way that he needs to. And, of course, he's had this 41-panel van for a lot of years, so it's got a great look to it. But, it's just kind of really refining that technique. And he's actually got the best shot here to really put some big distance on the board because he just hooked 2 hooks ago. And so the track conditions are pretty much exactly the same as they were for that hook. And so we'll see if he got a little bit more aggressive on the tune-up and aggressive on his driving style to try to get an edge.
Has not had the best of seasons, certainly not what this team is used to, but boy, he's going to turn things around right there. That is a massive number compared to what we've seen so far, and we've seen some good trucks, 3:42 and 24.
Just so cool to see these guys take that information from that first run and make those changes. It's a completely different hook. He's all the way over on the right sideline. He sticks it over there, uses a little bit of brake about half track to keep it over there so it doesn't drift to that left-hand side. On the first run that he had out there with the After Midnight, he goes right to left, and so he knew he had to avoid that. The first guy to really stick it over there on the right-hand side, and it really pays off for him. Just cool to see him doing something completely different and gaining those dividends from it.
And you wonder with a hook like that, despite his efforts one day ago, if it doesn't put him in the hunt for the belt buckle. That was a massive number.
Yeah, and he was just 10th one day ago. So really when you talk about 11 as an overall number, that's still pretty good.
We spent some time with Lisa Tatum, a former champ here in the category, to find out what she thinks about before a hook.
I think that for me, the stress and the heart beating, chest palpitations is when you're pulling up and backing up to the sled. Once they've dropped that hook, it goes quiet. It's like I couldn't see, somebody could be running down the side of the track and I wouldn't even notice. And I do think that's a big part of it, is you've got to bring it in yourself, be calm, go when you're ready. And yeah, just like that, you can't worry about anything else. You got to be in the moment. When you're sitting there and they give you the green flag, row your boat. I know. It just depends. I think you just got to take a deep breath, go when you're ready, find a point to focus on. It's one of those when you're driving off the track, I can't remember what just happened. You have that instant amnesia, but it's the best. Everything goes quiet.
And she'll be behind the wheel of the truck that her father typically campaigns here, in the Park City truck. Spraying a little de-icer there up in the blower hat. Try to keep some of the ice from forming up on those butterflies. Wow, and a really solid effort here is going to be good enough to jump up into second place. 3:22 and 31.
Yeah, and she was a little bit more aggressive off the line, and she must have noticed that from the pull by Jeremy Nelson, because he had gone full throttle by the first 50 to 75 feet, and you can watch those butterflies on that hat and see that she does exactly the same thing. It's about getting that front end up, getting that ground speed up early, being aggressive, moving the sled fast down the track so you can leg it out. You get to see the massive amount of dirt that she's moving, but because she's got that ground speed, it's actually sliding underneath the sled instead of piling up in front of the buckboard and causing more resistance for the sled as she pulls it down the track. So a good job by her on her strategy to leg this out here and get a good run in.
Amazing that she jumps up in there into second place and still some 20 feet short of Jeremy Nelson, as Dale Nelson will come up here next with a truck called Last Chance.
Yeah, and he definitely took notice of the sled placement by the Midnight Gambler, because you see he's over there parked on that right sideline as well.
Wow, another great effort here at 3:22 and 10. Will miss second place here by a tick over 2 inches.
Yeah, and it's got to make you wonder, what kind of combination did Jeremy Nelson have in there? You know, was it just that he took the good pass from that side of the track? You know, did he really wick it up and get super aggressive? You know, because these guys all in the same camp, and even Dale's truck 20 feet back, even though this is his first full season back on the Champions Tour in quite some time, you know, campaigning out here with his sons.
Yeah, came in here in the top 5 in points, having a really solid season. As we continue on, next truck up is the Overload, driven by Scott Nearing out of Reedsburg, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and Reedsburg just 30 minutes away, so you know he's feeling a little bit of those hometown pressures here this weekend.
You can see they're part of the Deppy camp as well, and Deppy having a great hook one day ago. And Scott will end up with a distance of 3:10 and 36.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see guys sprinkling some different techniques out here on the track. He tried to move back over to the center, and I saw that Rhino Ag box top off on the sled, and it looks like about the same settings from one day ago. Usually with our 2-wheel drive trucks, you see 5 of those suitcase weights in the box. Usually runs in about the same gear, so everybody knows what to expect. And of course, that's all variable based on what the track conditions are, how much moisture's in it, and what they need to do to make sure we can make everybody land about 300 feet.
So everybody chasing Jeremy Nelson, who's posted a big number up on the board, but a great battle there to get into the top 3. Welcome back to Hillsboro, Wisconsin, and the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull presented by General Tire. We're focused on the super modified 2-wheel drive trucks here today. Coming up next is Jared Nelson in the Midnight Revenger. 3 years he has been up on the podium, including a win back in 2016, finished second the last couple of years, but struggled here just one day ago despite some new hardware under the hood, and Leslie spoke to him.
So an early hook in the season proved detrimental to Jared Nelson's points chase this year, but he's hanging in there in 3rd place. But a little different here for Hillsboro tonight with a new bullet in there.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of forget about that and just hope for the best. But we did start out the year bad. We've been playing catch up. But sometimes it's easier to be the one chasing somebody down than the one out front. So that's what we're going with right now. We're sitting up front. We're just trying to be consistent and go A to B and not do anything stupid that'll hurt us. So at this point, that's all we can ask for.
How are you going to be consistent when you don't know what this new motor is going to do when you go down the track tonight?
I'm just going to bend it over like normal and hope for the best.
He can certainly get it down. I mean, 3 consecutive podiums there in the middle of the season, including a win. He has a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place finish, but boy, just one day ago, he struggled out here. And he's going to miss the mark here today as well. 3:10 and 44. You would typically think that'd be a good number, but boy, whenever you see numbers out there at 3:20 and 3:40, that is a big miss.
Well, the only good that can come of this run, you know, even though it's not going to yield him the results that he needs in points to try to make a run at that championship, is the fact that he's going to get a lot of good data on it. And, you know, when you've only got a couple passes on a motor, you know, even though it's built the same as everything else, you know, that you've got in your stables, and it should react the same way, it sometimes doesn't. And so they'll go back, they'll look at that data, they'll do some fine tuning and make a charge at it here for the last 3 events.
Coming up next is, once again, Tim Messer. We saw Tim Messer earlier in the thin blue line, this driving the Southwind Dental truck, and this is your points leader, the thin blue line truck, down in 11th coming in. Oh, man, it sounds like something happened there at the end of that hook. Mechanically, he went 319 in the thin blue line truck, and we were expecting him to do at least that, knowing what he was coming into, but 311, clearly something going wrong at the end.
And I wonder if it didn't start at the beginning of the run, because he was well past the flagman at the 100-foot mark when he went full throttle, and it took him a long time to get there. But just really dying out like that is something that you don't see very often, especially with these super modified two-wheel drive trucks.
Yeah, and the butterflies were still wide open when it happened, so he clearly had some sort of mechanical there that will cost him and certainly open up the door for Bethany Nelson to take over this points lead. A.J. Rydell coming up here next from Dubuque. Shafted the name of the truck. See how the Chevy does here. And it sounded sweet. Unfortunately, just did not get the distance he was hoping for at 300 even.
Yeah, just outside of the top 10 one day ago. And normally that distance, like you said earlier, would land you in about that same spot, but not here with this crew and the big numbers that they've put up. And I think part of it is just experience. You know, the guys that we're seeing having the most success here on this Hillsboro track are the ones that have pulled here the most. And, you know, that's just one of the things you have to battle in truck and tractor pulling, is that the track is not the same everywhere like it is in other sports. And so the dirt is different in different regions of the country, and it reacts different to your cut of tire each time that you hook as well.
Quick track preparation there. As you can see, they prep these tracks between each hook to give everybody as fair a chance as they can. Here comes Wayne Timmerman on the Showtime truck. Keep in mind, finished third one day ago. Has a shot at that prestigious belt buckle. Wow, and despite the front end being up in the air, he is going to miss the mark by a bunch at 290 and 52. What a difference a day will make.
Yeah, it looked like once the box topped off and put the full weight on the hook point, it kind of launched that front end up just a little bit. But if you look at the way that the dirt is moving on the track, it's really mealy on top. It's getting a little bit dry, and that's something that you fight with an afternoon pull. You know, the guys here at Hillsboro do a great job on the scraper tractors. They've got sprayers to try to keep that moisture in the track, but you really can't battle with Mother Nature on that, though. And so adjustments are going to have to be made by pullers if they're going to try to get up there to the top and catch Jeremy Nelson and take the win away from him here today. Lots more action to come.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by Geico, saving people money on more than just car insurance. Super Clean, not just clean, super clean. And by Optima Batteries, the ultimate power source.
The super modified two-wheel drive trucks are putting on a show here at the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull, presented by General Tire. Donnie Sullivan, one of the players inside of this category, coming up here next. The truck is called All In, and we had a chance to speak with him, and he clearly explained to us that this is much more than just a hobby.
It's more than a hobby. My wife reminds me sometimes it's just a hobby, but it's really, it's never ending. I mean, we pull every day. I mean, we're kind of way over the top, but we don't have the budget a lot of teams do, so we just try to outwork them and try to be better prepared, and sometimes that helps us be successful. We got a great team. I mean, I love getting to spend as much time with my dad, but I've got some boys that help me, my son and Steve Grouse and Jason Bond and my brother. I mean, it's a total volunteer, work your butt off and have a lot of fun, but we got a great team, and it's way more than just my dad and I to keep it going.
Yeah, and his father leading in the modified tractor category, so they're having another great season over there in that class. As we take a look at Donnie come up here with the all-in machine, comes in here currently tied up for 7th. He is certainly looking to change that up today, though. Front end up in the air, big time ground speed, and we have a brand new leader, 346.05, and somebody finally catches Jeremy Nelson.
Man, just a really awesome run here. Moving it back over to that left sideline, and you see that right off the starting line, just a little bit of a turn to the right to avoid the pull of the track to go out of bounds. It takes an even bigger turn at the end. Very, very smart move, and that's what the veterans do, just those little finite touches that make big differences, and just so cool to see him come up with this run. And, you know, like you said, tied for 7th, and one day ago, not the best effort there at 15th, and so definitely making up for it with this particular run.
And that really legitimizes Jeremy Nelson's effort at 342. Nobody within 20 feet of him, and you've got to be scratching your head like, how is that possible? But then you see somebody like Donnie Sullivan come out here and say, yeah, I think we got a little something for him.
And it happened on 2 completely different sides of the track, so it shows that there's still a road out here. You just have to put all the pieces together to make it happen.
Tim Deppy coming up here next, finished 2nd one day ago, and he's in the hunt for that belt buckle. Boy, and that Chevy, just a beautiful truck, looks so cool. He's going to miss the mark for being competitive out here for the win today at 309 and 12.
And it looks like Donnie Sullivan may have taken the line that he wanted, because he put it on the left side of the track, but you can see he's moved off of it just a tire's width. And so he wanted to make sure he got some fresh tracks, some fresh ground. Did have to use some brakes to bring it back around about the 225 mark. And so that, of course, going to hurt him by about 5 to 10 feet. But I think he's probably just a little sour that somebody got to that far left sideline before he did.
Next competitor driving a truck called the P5 is Jesse Petro. Had good success here 1 year ago. Comes in here outside of the top 10, but he finished up on the podium here in 2018. And again, like previous trucks, picks that front end up nicely, but right at the very end of the hook, just not quite far enough to be a player here today.
Well, you can see a ton of blow-by, too, at the end of the run, and that's really not good when you've got the oil slipping past the rings there on these engines. So that means there could be something wrong in there. And so a nice effort starts to pick up that front end, and then you can see the blow-by really, really coming out of the bottom end. And so he'll have some work to do once he gets back to camp there to try to find the problem.
A handful of trucks not on the Champions Tour will also compete in here with us today, and we'll have one of those when we come back. Just a gorgeous day out here at Hillsboro Fireman's Park for the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull, presented by General Tire. Exactly what the fans like to see as they have lined the grandstands to watch the best and tractor pulling go at it today. Kurt Timmerman coming up here next from Cuba City, Michigan. The truck called Hot and Nasty. And another really good-looking hook that did not yield the big distance that he was hoping for, 309 and 45.
Yeah, looked good at the end, really good weight placement, chose a really good gear, but It's really that whole shot here for him. And, his style just a little bit different, feeling the track out a little bit slower, waiting to kind of roll into it before he gets that big, heavy sled rolling. And with this particular track and this particular sled setting, that type of approach just isn't going to yield the numbers that he's going to need here to be in contention for the win today.
Former champ in the category is Bethany Nelson, comes in here second in the points. The door is wide open for her to take over this points lead if she can have a good hook here today. Leslie had a chance to spend some time with her earlier on.
So Bethany Nelson finds herself creeping towards that number 1 spot here in points. But traditionally here at Hillsboro, it's an early hook in the 2-wheel drive class that does well. Tonight you find yourself towards the latter half of that pack. And so how do you feel about your hook position and your chances here today?
Honestly, I feel all right about it. Yeah, last night I won with the number 1 hook, but later in the class the track actually came around again. So that gives me a little hope for today that my crew has my setup right and I do an okay job driving, that we have a chance of getting down there.
So, a lot of people, worry about, watching people, on the track. And so are you the type of person that would rather get your hook over with and then watch everybody else run? Or do you want to study that track for as long as possible?
Yeah, no, I would much rather hook early. If I get the option, I do not mind the number 1 hook. I take it any day. Now, my crew chief would rather me be a little later because he's the one that has to hit the setup early on. So, but I'm all right with last today. I feel good coming into it. My truck's been on a roll and been doing really good. So as long as we're set up, we got a chance.
Yeah, 3 consecutive podiums coming into this one, including that win that she mentioned just one day ago. She's closing the gap quickly. The mark she really wants to get past here is Tim Messer's Southwind Dental at 3:11 and 14. Well, and I'm just not real sure she did that. She's going to lay up a little bit short here at 3:06 and 89.
Yeah, and the door was open for her, too, to take home that prestigious belt buckle as well. But with that effort, I don't know that that's going to do it for her today. And, like she said, her crew chief is her husband, Jared. He likes to get out here and study it and watch. But, when you've had some time elapsed between the team trucks, you can only have so much data to work off of. And, they're a great team. They communicate really, really well. Sometimes it's hard to be out here, on the track, husband-wife team, but, they do it great with class and style. So she's going to find herself a little bit behind the 8 ball here going in those last 3 events.
And as you talked about, too, this is a large class, and she was pretty deep in the order as we see William Deppy come up here next. The truck called Inches Matter. We'll find out how he does. And much like Bethany, he's going to struggle here towards the end of this category as well at 293 and 98.
Yeah, and I kind of anticipated this truck to do a little bit better here. Just these guys from Baraboo, Wisconsin, familiar with the Wisconsin dirt, part of that Deppy team. They've had a couple shots at it here today. But again, so many variables in the sport that make this so hard. Not only is it about your driving style, but it's about air pressure in the tires and the gear selection and the setup and how much fuel you're going to give the engine, how hard you're going to drive it out of the hole, and all those things have to combine kind of in a perfect universe for you to take that win.
We're not finished yet. We still have one more truck to go. He comes in here 3rd in the points. Could be a player.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by General Tire, anywhere is possible. Rhino Ag, born to lead. And by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world.
Just one truck left here in the super modified 2-wheel drive truck category at the Geico Hillsboro Charity Tractor Pull, presented by General Tire. It will be Brant Sullivan with the Big Ed Red, comes in here 3rd in the points. And he, too, is going to have a chance to really close this gap up with the points leader, Tim Messer, putting down a 3:11 and 14. And then second in points, Bethany Nelson at 3:06 and 89. Again, the mark he wants to surpass is at 3:11 and 14.
Yeah, he's only 22 points behind, and he could really make up some of those here with this pass.
And a good-looking effort, front end up and down. Didn't have the big ground speed, but he is going to accomplish one of those goals as he will put some 4 or 5 trucks between him and Tim Messer at 3:13 and 46.
And man, that is so huge right now. Gaining confidence, getting your points closed out to try to get close to Tim Messer, who, like I said earlier, hasn't made very many mistakes this season. And this is kind of a wild ride for him, and I didn't expect the numbers to be that good just with the loading and unloading of the tires, the fact that he had to pick the front end, up and down so many times, but it worked out well for him here.
For sure, yeah, doing his job. Well, congratulations to Lisa Tatum. She has a great hook out here today, in excess of 320 feet. Good enough to get herself up there on the podium, and up on the podium for the first time this season. Speaking of that, let's run down there and chat with her. Congrats, Lisa.
Well, Lisa Tatum steps on the edge of the podium today, picking up 3rd place, and it just seems like you and your dad make such a great team when you drive his truck.
Yeah, we really do. I've got to give him all the credit in the world because after last night, I threw the guts out of my motor, and he was crazy enough to let me take a ride in his. And one thing that I've found is that when he lets me drive his truck, I don't feel like I have a say in the setup. And so he sets it up, and I do my job and go out there and drive it. And it always seems to really work well.
Yeah, and great for you guys today, picking up this 3rd place finish.
Yeah, super great. It looks great for our sponsor, Park City. Got a lot grocery list of people I want to thank. I want to thank everybody back home at Tatum Auto Supply, which is our Park City store. They keep the home fires burning. I want to thank Sassy Racing Engines for giving us great parts, and my dad is actually the engine builder, so we get good parts, and he does a good job making a good motor. My brother's back home, and he's, he gives his 2 cents from afar, and Bob and Bobby Barbie from Full Pool Motorsports, they built a really fine piece, and they've helped us kind of get things dialed in, and so we're super happy.
A solid day for sure as you take a look at how they finish up here. Donnie and Jeremy way out there on the rest of the field. Lisa doing a great job as she just edged out Dale Nelson as well to sneak up onto that podium. Finishing up in 2nd place and the winner of that prestigious belt buckle. Let's go down and talk to Jeremy Nelson.
Jeremy Nelson told me earlier that it was all about trying to bring the belt buckle home for the 2nd year in a row here from Hillsboro. You pull off a 2nd place finish, but I think the more important thing is that you did win the belt buckle this weekend.
Yeah, that's the bigger prize here, which we wanted to win too, but take 2nd any day because we've been struggling this year. I mean, 2019 has not been our year on and off the track, and we wanted that buckle because of whose name's on it, and he was our teammate, her dad, my father-in-law. We miss him dearly, and so this one's for him.
Yeah, heartfelt, and couldn't go to a better team. Congratulations to them. As we take a look at the points, Tim Messer now came in with a 2-point spread. Now it's 6 over Bethany. Grant Sullivan was 20-plus back and now closes it up to 18. So it is on with 3 hooks yet to go. Let's go down and talk to our winner, the tough Donnie Sullivan.
Well, Donnie Sullivan takes the big win tonight, and really moving that sled to the sideline really paid big dividends for you guys.
Yeah, we were the first one to go over there, and it stuck, and the truck ran great, and I drove it a little better today, and it just all worked out. I just want to thank my crew. I got great people behind me, and we run a lot of equipment. I want to wish my daughter, Maddie, a happy birthday at home today, and thank Don Slama for putting us great pull on. If you've never been to Hillsboro, Wisconsin to see a tractor pull, you need to get up here. This is as good as it gets.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of sponsorship for your team too this year, helping you out and backing you through the years.
Yeah, Optima Battery and Lucas Oil and Progressive Plating, Mother's Polish. We've been lucky to have a good support throughout the years.
Never miss a pull. Go to propulling.com/set reminder to add all of the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League airings to your personal calendar. Receive a calendar reminder minutes before each event airs.
Much like the Polars themselves, we always enjoy coming up here to Hillsboro, Wisconsin for one of the biggest hooks on the tour. Remember, you can keep up with all the latest news and action at propulling.com. Hope you enjoyed all the great action courtesy of the super modified 2-wheel drive trucks. For Leslie Mears, I'm Ken Stout. Thanks for watching the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League.